Hi, this is Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and this is going to be another late night movie review discussion. This is a movie I've done on the podcast before. I did it on Wuxia Weekend. I don't know if we did it on the Righteous Blood podcast or not, but I have talked about it on the Wuxia Weekend podcast, and I've talked about it on the YouTube channel when I did a review of it there. But it came up in a comment on the blog when somebody was asking about another movie. And I started talking about it, and then I just had some thoughts about it. And I've been doing this thing where I've been, because Amazon Prime has been taking down a lot of the movies, and because I have I have a ridiculous number of DVDs and Blu-rays, but my DVD player / Blu-ray player is broken at the moment. And so I need to replace it, and that's made me have to rely more on Amazon Prime. And so one thing I've been doing is I've been trying, even though they took down a lot, I've been trying to build up my collection digitally so that I have the stuff to watch on the computer. When the DVD player isn't working and needs to be replaced. So I decided to purchase Vengeful Beauty and watch it again. It's a shame. It used to be on Prime for free, so people could just stream it, but now you have to rent it or buy it. And unfortunately, a lot of the movies aren't even on there anymore. The streaming services are kind of getting chaotic again as movies move to different services and stuff. So I wanted to watch it again and talk about it, and because it's a very influential movie for me on a lot of the gaming stuff I do, and it's also one of the movies that's always stood out for a number of reasons. I'll probably cover a lot of similar ground, but like a lot of things, the more time away from something you have, the more you watch it, the more thoughts you have on it. And also, this is kind of different because it's a late night movie review. For those who don't know, late night movie reviews are anything after 11 o'clock, basically, when I start to get tired. And the idea is I just have to sit here and talk about a movie with a lot of rambling and free association of ideas and just things not necessarily gelling the way they normally would. I'm also in a slightly altered state of consciousness right now, so that's also going to be adding to this review. This is probably maybe not technically a first, but kind of a first in that respect for the podcast. Now, I should mention it's not from alcohol or drugs or anything like that. I can't drink because of my medications, and I can't do any kind of drugs because of my health conditions. But I do occasionally need to alter my state of mind in different ways. And so tonight I'm definitely not operating on all four cylinders here. So there'll be a lot of forgetfulness and probably even more rambling and aimless meandering into other topics. But again, that's the point of these, so I don't mind. So I wanted to talk again about Vengeful Beauty. This is a 1978 film directed by Ho Meng-Hua, who's a really good director. He was one of the directors that I really used to love to do reviews about. I used to like to review his movies and stuff, and I just always thought he told great stories, and I loved that he tended to have a lot of female protagonists. He did Lady Hermit and the Jade Raksha, and he also did movies like the original Flying Guillotine movie. Vengeful Beauty is a Flying Guillotine film. It's kind of a sequel to the sequel situation with the Flying Guillotine movies is pretty complicated, so I won't get into that here. But it's one of the sequels, and it's one by Ho Meng-Hua, and I think it's kind of better than the first one, and I think a lot of people feel this way. Maybe not everybody, but I've definitely seen reviews where people have said that they think this is a better movie than the original Flying Guillotine movie, and I kind of agree with that. And again, we'll get into the reasons as I go on. But before we start, I wanted to give the breakdown of the plot, and I'm going to just, because it's a late night movie review, because my brain is mush, I'm going to read it right out of the Wikipedia, which is going to be a problem because they I think the way that they spell the names is very different from the way they were done in the subtitles of the version I just watched, which always kind of throws me. So if I mispronounce anything, I apologize. I may swap in other names just to make it easier occasionally if the character has two names. And yeah, so I'll read the plot synopsis, and then I'll get into the discussion of it. I should say this has spoilers, and this is a movie with an important twist. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. Then you can listen to this. Or if you don't mind it being spoiled, some people don't. Some people don't care about twists. Go ahead and listen. And I'm going to talk in more depth about the twist as well after I give the synopsis. So the synopsis is as the trained flying guillotine assassins secretly working for the Emperor began their attacks, one of the assassins is caught by a local security force. Flying guillotine leader Jin Ganfeng is ordered to kill every witness, including the prison interrogator and his family, to keep the assassins a secret. Bloody Hibiscus, character name Rong Chuyan, returns home to find her dead husband and immediately fingers Gangfeng. With her superior kung fu, she nearly kills him, but retreats to protect her unborn child. Now Gunfeng is in deep trouble. He told the emperor, under threat of execution, that all witnesses are dead. In order to keep his head, Gungfeng turns to his 3 adult children to quickly hunt down and kill Chuyan slash Bloody Hibiscus, who is now attempting to reach her uncle. And I should say that's the uncle of her dead husband. As the hunt begins, Chuyan hooks up with a former flying guillotine member named Ma Sung, played by Norman Chu, and her old martial arts brother Wang Jun, played by Yu Hua, who both help her along the way and become rivals in their love for her. So this movie, I mean, I don't know if I did a great job reading that, but this movie has a lot of classic elements from these kinds of movies. It's got the love triangle. It's got the the corrupt emperor. It's got the official who's going after the heroes. But it throws a lot of interesting things into the mix. And so, like I said, like the backstory here is her husband was killed by the flying guillotine assassin squad, and she was 2 months pregnant when that happened. And they had a whole conversation because he knew something was going on. He was very worried, and he told her that whatever she does, she has to protect the baby, and so she should go to his uncle's. Now the thing is, she's like a hero in this setting. She's a character. She's a martial figure named Bloody Hibiscus, who we see right from the very beginning is is probably more powerful than the big villain at the end of the movie, or at least nearly is equal, if not more powerful than him. But because she's pregnant and she's protecting her unborn baby, it adds this level of complexity to the situation where she has to almost stay her hand. Like she can never really fully unload all of her power on her enemies because she's always trying to protect the unborn baby. So it's really interesting because of that. And I think it's also just interesting, the fact that she's pregnant, the fact that the emotional journey that she goes on as a result of that. And again, I'm going to spoil it because there's this threat of the miscarriage through the whole movie. And I'll get into the details of the plot, but the big broad thing that happens is by the end she miscarries at the very end. And when she miscarries, she realizes that she now her husband is dead, her baby is dead. She doesn't have to run to protect anything anymore, so she can go and really get her revenge. And it's a really powerful moment. And that type of story appeals to me, for for reasons in my own life that just that type of character is compelling to me. And so I thought they did a really good job with it. And I thought that Chen Ping, who plays plays Bloody Hibiscus, was really good at this. She really is. She just, I don't know, just something about the way that she expresses herself in terms of her facial expressions, the way that she she carries that weapon. Everything just works with her in this role. And I should mention, she has a really cool weapon. She has it's kind of like a metal staff that's got these different sections that can be attached to it, so it can kind of increase and decrease in size. And it's got a really sharp, cool-looking tip, and it's just this silver metal staff or metal spear, basically. And the villain, Jin Gunfeng, he also has a kind of 3-section staff type thing, but it's a little different. So it's kind of a nice sort of mirror of each other in a way. And I remember his is made out of wood or something. But the other thing about this movie that's cool is the villain is really fleshed out. The villain is a very grounded villain. He's played by Lolier, who's really good at playing bad guys. And in this one, he's a little bit more subdued. He's a little bit more believable. He had again, he is protecting a ridiculously evil emperor and all that, and he's going he's but again the measures he's taking, a lot of it is a product of him serving this really evil emperor. He's not a good guy, but he's just a believable character. And he has 3 children, and the plot really kicks off when he sends them after her because, like the synopsis said, she initially goes to attack him, and then when she realizes it's bad for the baby, she retreats. And so he has to deal with this issue quietly because he told the emperor that she's dead. And so he sends his 3 children. I don't know. The structure of the movie is basically, the waves of attacks from each of the children that she has to contend with, and then her finally getting to the uncle's house, and then dealing with a betrayal by Wang Jun, who's one of the love interests and one of her companions in the story, but we find out later is the illegitimate son of Gang Feng, and because Gang Feng is offering his property and wealth to whichever of his children kills her, he's willing to kill her, and it's a real serious betrayal because Gang Feng is her former what would you call it? Like they were basically both trained in Wudang by the same master, and they grew up together. It sounds like training, and it sounds like I can't imagine that he was planning this the whole time. So it sounds like he was legitimately in love with her for a while, and so or he's just pretending that he was in love with her just for the purposes of what he's about to do. But it's a real interesting sort of unexpected betrayal. I think you kind of start to suspect something's up around the time that it happens when the director wants you to. And he does plant the seeds so that when you go back and rewatch it, you're like, yes, this isn't like a last minute, he's suddenly going to betray her. There's signs of it leading up to it. But I think it's a genuinely surprising betrayal. And so, yeah, so there's, that beat of the movie, and then her and the Ma Sun character go and contend with the bad guy, and there's a really cool showdown because he's got a bunch of people wearing masks that make them look like him, so it's just like they're facing off against a bunch of Jin Gan Fengs, and they have to keep smashing the masks until they find the real one. And I think that's really neat. It's kind of like the Conan fight scene with the mirrors and Conan the Destroyer. It's similar to that, but instead of smashing the mirrors, they have to smash the masks on the guys' faces. So I like those kinds of little clever touches in fight scenes. It's sort of something where it's like this is it just feels like, okay, there's all these little things that they're adding to it as they go, and it's got a lot of really great fight sequences. So the first son, when he attacks her, there's this great bamboo forest scene where the son is hiding in the bamboo trees, and it's on a stage, so it's not like in Touch of Zen with their bamboo forest scene. There's a it's real world, and the same thing with House of Flying Daggers, and so, but in this one, it's more of a it's more of a sound stage. But I like sound stages. I feel like this movie is a blend of sound stages and outdoors, but I like the sound stages because it creates kind of a fantasy world where this is all happening. It's set in historical China, but it's got like a hyper realistic feel when they do it on the sound stages. And then I think it makes you accept things that you might not accept otherwise because it feels like it's on a stage, and so you accept the stage logic of it. So I really like the bamboo forest scene and the way that that's executed, and just the fight choreography in general, but some of the cool things that happen in it. There's this one scene where she does like a split, and then she wedges herself with her feet between 2 bamboo shafts and just climbs up them that way. She cuts down a bunch of bamboo trees, and the guy that's in them tumbles down. Just things like that. It's a fun scene. The second son attacks them at an inn, and this is where she meets the Ma Sun character, because he's somebody who's also in hiding that's working at the inn. He's developing a technique with bowls to kind of contend with the flying guillotines, and so there's a big fight at the inn, and that's kind of where Ma Sun, Jin Gun Fung, and Bloody Hibiscus all come together as a team initially in the movie, and then after that scene, there's just the daughter left. And what's cool is you get to see the Jin Gun Fung character watch as each of his children dies dealing with this lady, and he kind of gets the intensity of the situation gets more, it gets more intense, and it gets it's until he loses his firstborn son, and then his secondborn son, and then now he's only has his daughter, and the daughter is more vicious and wicked than either of the first two sons. And she, and he instructs her to use her mind more, to use deception and things like that. So she goes in and she sets up a really interesting ploy to get into the good graces of Bloody Hibiscus so that she can kill her when she least suspects it. And just the all the little things that she does along the way are interesting. And again, this movie does get into, some people sometimes describe it as an exploitation movie because again, I don't know, the protagonist is pregnant, and there's and there are some nudity scenes, and a lot of them happen during the daughter's attack on Bloody Hibiscus, and we see both Bloody Hibiscus and the daughter topless during the scene. There's actually a topless fight scene. The daughter of Jin Gun Fung, she uses a knife, and she has like a really cool, like a real intense style, like a real just sort of tight, sharp style of fighting that I really like, and it works well with her character. This is, again, like a lot of movies like this do this, where the fighting style of the character really accent the personality of the character or help illuminate it. And that was one of the characters where you really see that, and you see it with all of them, but with her character especially. And so so they go against the three children and all that. And I don't know, and then they get to the uncles, then they have the big fight scene at the end, and unfortunately Ma Sun dies, but she also manages to kill Jin Gan Fung at the moment of his betrayal. And it's an interesting scene when he betrays her, because she's faking a miscarriage in order to draw him out, in order to get him to reveal himself, because she suspects him. And that's when he does try to attack her. And so then she, announces that she was faking the miscarriage, and she's able to contend with him. And it's an interesting fight scene. It's a really cool pairing. She's got she actually lengthens her staff for this fight scene, which works really well against his sword. I always like when they do things like that. I like when they're thinking about how the weapons complement each other and how they work. And that's definitely a scene where you can see that the two weapons are really well matched. And so she kills him, but then that actually prompts the real miscarriage. And again, this scene is probably another one where people would file this under exploitation movie. But there's a very bloody miscarriage, and it doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. But it's really powerful. Again, miscarriages are something that happen. Pregnancies are something that happen, and it's interesting to see a protagonist that has the added complication of having a pregnancy while she's running away from the emperor. It just I think it really worked, and I think that everything was building to that miscarriage, so it's not like it was just thrown in there to make the movie trashy. Ho Meng-Hua can get into that territory when he wants to, but I feel in this movie it was done intentionally, and there's a lot of craft in his movies. I mean, he did the he didn't just do like a lot of the martial arts movies. He also did The Monkey Goes West and like Cave of the Silken Web and a lot of those Journey of the West movies. He did, again, it's a little bit more exploitation, but he did Black Magic, which is a movie that I really like. But Lady Hermit is just a classic movie. Like the way he frames his shots in that movie is really stunning, and you still see that here too. There's a lot of scenes where, especially in some of the standoffs, like the standoff between And I'm sorry, I think I was just calling Wang Jun Jin Gan Feng. I apologize. Late night movie review. So, the Yu Hua's character Wang Jun, when he betrays Bloody Hibiscus, um, there's a standoff where they're kind of like, you know, walking in like sort of in in that circular motion against each other. The way that that scene is framed is gorgeous, and it reminds me of the framing of the final fight scene and Lady Hermit, just how well he does that. Like I would encourage people to look up Lady Hermit and look up Black Claw Demon. I think was the name of the villain, and just the scene where he's got his claws facing her, the scene where Cheng Pei Pei is back to back with her disciple. It's and that the standoff scene here really worked for me for the just the way that it was framed. And again, I do want to reiterate, late night movie reviews, they're going to be errors. Don't rely on me for getting names of characters correct. I may swap names and things like that. And I may meander like I was just doing a moment ago. So yeah, so so we had the love triangle, which was great. We have the betrayal and all these interesting twists in the movie. One other thing I like about the film is just how well paced it is and how well structured it is. It's only like an hour and 18 minutes. At least the version on Amazon is, and I'm pretty sure the one on my DVD was only an hour and 18 minutes too. I'd have to go check it to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the same version. And it makes it a really tight film, and it doesn't waste a lot of time. Everything in this movie is entertaining, and you never feel like you're waiting for things to happen. The closest they get to like a hangout with the character scene is really at the end, and that's really well placed because it's a nice respite from and again that's where the next fight scene also happens, but there's a bit of a respite there, and that's important because you have this relentless wave of these children coming after her. So just the way that the movie was paced worked. The way that it's structured really works for me. I love having the opening sequence with the flying guillotines and the emperor, and then you get into this meat of the movie, which is her contending with the children, and then you get into sort of the more of the climax, and it just really works, and it works emotionally. It's a very effective movie. I just think this is a revenge that has a lot of potency to it because of the situation. And yeah, so this was I think this is a really great movie. If it weren't a late night movie review, I could probably do it more justice. But I just rewatched it and I kind of wanted to sit down and talk about it. This one had a lot of influence on me too. Like I was saying, like that Relentless Corpse book that I put out. One of the characters in that, or the lead character of the sect, is pregnant, and definitely this was a movie that helped inspire that. There's other characters that have been pregnant in wuxia stories and stuff, so it's not like it's unprecedented. But the way it's done here is different. Huang Rong in the second Legend of Condor Heroes book is pregnant during some really intense scenes that happen, and so that's definitely a character that's similar. And also I will note the name of this character is Rong Chu Yan, so maybe I don't know if that's a intentional reference or if it's just a different character from either a different story or just original, but I mean it's a totally different situation, and her character is so different from Huang Rong. She's just just a different type of character, and it's also kind of set against the backdrop of the emperor really going after people. Like he's not just going after the people that are writing the bad books about him, he's going after the people that are editing the books and things like that. So it's just kind of an interesting setup to the story too. and I don't know, I like the character's name, Bloody Hibiscus. And there's a scene where she introduces herself, and again, sometimes the translation, these things aren't 100% accurate, so the poetry might be lost, or the poetry might even be added in the translation. You never really know. It's one of the things that I always think makes these movies interesting um, is the misunderstandings that happen when you're viewing them. Again, that's why when I wrote Wandering Heroes of Orgate, it has like the real title, and then it's got like the title that's like the secondary title that's more confused. Do you know what I mean? So I always like this idea of how these are always coming in through translation, and when she introduces herself, they ask her name, and first she says, "I have no name," and then they say, "Well, that doesn't make sense," and then she says, she she cuts a flower, a hibiscus, and it lands, and she says, "That's my name," Bloody Hibiscus, and I think the guy says something, that's like a ridiculous name, and she says, "No, it's not. Hibiscus are irrigated by blood, and so it makes sense." It was just an interesting line. I probably butchered it, but the line itself and the way she says it, it just really works. It really works. The whole movie works, and it's and oh, and I did forget to mention the martial arts director in this movie was Tong Kai. That's always important with these movies. Sometimes I neglect to mention it, but you notice the consistency of the fight choreography if you pay attention to that. Who's doing it. And yeah, so again, another Ho Meng-Hua movie. I put this up there with Lady Hermit and films like that. Jade Raksha. Another one. I really wish I had a better copy of Jade Raksha. I have one of the I forget what they're called, but not a DVD, but like the much lower resolution like CD DVD or whatever they're called, where you get two CDs, and you have to pop the movie in again midway through, so it stops because it reaches the end, and then you got to get the rest of it on the next one. It's a little bit like the old laser discs that I think you had to flip those, if I remember. I could be wrong, but I remember that being one of the reasons why people didn't buy laser discs right away. So yeah, I really wish I had better Jade Raksha. But yeah, this is again, I mean, I've seen it before, I've talked about it before, and I'm definitely in no mental state to be discussing movies, as you can probably tell. But these late night movie reviews, they're meant to be a little more entertaining, a little bit more chill for me, a little more relaxed. I'm just doing everything off the cuff, and and this one I had a couple of notes because I knew my brain was squishy enough that I wouldn't remember, but the notes are just bullet points of things I wanted to bring up. And I think I did cover all of them. I hope I did. But yeah, these are, pardon me, I'm yawning, but these late night movie reviews are just, they're meant to be entertaining, and also kind of put me in a state of mind where I'm talking more frankly about a movie. I'm talking more. I don't know. I can't really conceal my opinion in any with flowery language, or I can't bullshit. Do you know what I mean? I don't have the mental fortitude after 11 o'clock, and it's after midnight for this one. But I don't have the mental fortitude at this hour to to use, I don't know how to put it, but just to talk my way through a review and in a really clever way. Like I have to just kind of speak more plainly. And I don't know, I like doing this. These are the most fun reviews to do. I don't know who actually listens to them, to be honest. Maybe some people like them, maybe some people don't. I mean, my eyes are literally closing on me as I'm doing this review. That's how tired I am. So, that just gives you an idea of where my mind is at. But without fail, hey, again, I'm yawning, so I apologize. But without fail, I have way more fun doing these. Not because I don't enjoy my podcast with my co-hosts or anything like that, and not because I don't enjoy watching movies in that way, but these are just the most relaxing, easy reviews to do, because it's like I'm just watching a movie because I decided I want to watch it, and it's not planned in advance or anything, so it's just totally on the fly. Hey, I feel like watching Vengeful Beauty, I'll watch it and I'll talk about it. So it's a lot of fun. Again, I mean, I can't say enough about Chen Ping in this movie. Really phenomenal. She does a great job. And I don't know. I like female protagonists in wuxia films. When I started talking about wuxia on my blog, I was one of the main things I was doing was covering Cheng Pei Pei films. I was trying to go through every Cheng Pei Pei film I could. And I think there was only like one or two that I didn't manage to get. And I think I eventually did get one of those ones. But yeah, I was trying to cover every Cheng Pei Pei film I could. And part of the reason was I really like characters like the types that she does, and I like female-led wuxia films. I mean, I like movies that have male protagonists too, but I just think there's something neat about the female protagonist wuxia films, and this is definitely an interesting one, and also it's during people that aren't as familiar. During the 70s, the female-led wuxia films kind of declined. I mean, not 100%. Like, there definitely were some, but like they when the kung fu craze hit, it definitely got a little bit more. It seemed like there were a lot more men, and I've heard people like Cheng Pei Pei talk about that, or I've seen articles where she's talked about it in interviews. And it's nice to have a movie like this in 1978. I mean, again, there were movies that had female leads in them, and wuxia movies that had female leads, but it wasn't quite like the Cheng Pei Pei era, I think. And I don't know, I just find those characters cool, and I find them charming and interesting and compelling, and also I feel like there's just a difference sometimes when you have male characters and it's all male characters fighting. It's sometimes less interesting than when it's more mixed, because there's just different things you can do when you have women versus men doing the choreography and the fighting. They just lend themselves to different things sometimes, and so I like that. I like that blend. And this one I just think does a great job. It's got two really strong female characters in the movie that both make a strong impression and are memorable. Again, it's got lots of male characters too, and it's certainly predominantly male characters. The lead is Bloody Hibiscus, and the daughter of Jin Gunfeng, and I can't remember her character's name. I mean, obviously it starts with Jin, but I don't remember which her sibling name was. But she was really memorable too. And again, it does get into sort of nudity and exploitative territory, but if you grew up watching this kind of stuff, or if you like these 70s type movies, you should be fine with it. I like gritty 70s types films, so everything from like Dirty Harry to Vengeful Beauty, and Taxi Driver and all that stuff, Mean Streets, those kind of movies. Yeah, I think I'm tapped out for this one. I don't think I have a whole lot more that I can say. But yeah, so I again, Vengeful Beauty, 1978. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I think it's kind of an underrated, like, people that know about it praise it. Like, if you look up reviews of this movie, I think you'll see I feel like you'll see a lot of positive ones. I know I've read positive ones of it plenty. And I even checked and looked at one right before I did, just to make sure I wasn't going crazy and forgetting that people liked it or not. But I'm pretty sure people that know it and seen it feel the way I do, or close to it. But it doesn't quite get the attention that some of the other movies do. And and again, it's an interesting movie. It's a flying guillotine movie, but the flying guillotines, even though they are important, they do show up. They're not as they're just not the stars of the film. It's an interesting approach. And I mean, again, I mean, it's certainly a crucial plot element. There's no shortage of seeing flying guillotines take off people's heads or try to. It just feels like they're not as central to the story as just what's going on with Bloody Hibiscus. So again, great movie. I can't recommend this one enough. I think it's one of the you watch a lot of wuxia and a few stand out, like Reign of Assassins, Come Drink with Me, Heroes Shed No Tears is a big one for me, and Vengeful Beauty is another one, but it just sort of is one of the ones that for me is a real high note in the genre. And everybody's different, not everybody agrees, so watch it and decide for yourself. It's just my opinion, but it's I consider it one of the top wuxia movies for me. I don't often do top wuxia movie lists. I did do a top 5 or top 10 Shoyuan movie list not too long ago on the blog. Maybe one of these days I'll do a top 10 wuxia list, period. Definitely this movie would have to be on that list, I think. It's so easy though to I don't know, when you have 10 slots to fill, it's easy to overlook ones that should be on there that you forget about in the moment or whatever. So I will head out. For those who aren't aware, I should have mentioned Righteous Blood Ruthless Blades won a Judges Spotlight Award at the Ennies. That was really cool. I was really pleased with that. I wasn't expecting it at all. Really flattering to win that. I put up my thanks on the blog, and it's there's a edited version of my thanks and Jeremy's thanks on the Ennies, and it's much more sleek looking than the one that I put up, because that one doesn't have any music or any effects on it. But if you don't know what Righteous Blood Ruthless Blades is, it's the wuxia role playing game that me and Jeremy wrote. And I'd say it'd be perfect for this kind of movie. So definitely consider checking it out. I don't usually pimp my stuff, but like I feel like I should be doing that more because a lot of effort went into that book, and I'm proud of it. But honestly, I don't know. I don't like doing that. I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big marketing person. I kind of do it here and there. I used to do it more, but I don't know. I'm always uncomfortable with the, and I know I'm rambling, but I'm allowed to do this on these late night movie reviews. I'm always uncomfortable with the way that the marketing, and I know it's just like like a first world problem to complain about, but to me it matters. Like the way that you can become this, because my I don't know if I've mentioned this on this before or not, but my dad was actually, or he is, he's alive and well. My dad is a sales trainer. He used to be a salesman when I was a kid, and then he became a sales trainer as I got older, and started doing like sales training, consulting type stuff. So I'm familiar with that world, and I'm familiar with the particular point of view that my dad had about it, which was, I always thought much more. He always had a very ethical approach to sales and marketing, but one of the things that I think happens online, and I've seen it happen, I felt it, so I mean I know, is you lose yourself becoming this marketeer of this game that you made, and I don't know, the artificiality of that spreads into everything else. Do you know what I mean? It's why like I get so thorny and itchy about certain things in the podcast and the blog, and why they'll have like these long periods of silence. It's one of the reasons why I took down my YouTube channel. I didn't take down I still have a YouTube channel, and my podcasts go up on the YouTube channel. But there were two big reasons why I stopped doing YouTube videos. And one of my I think Vengeful Beauty might have been one of my last YouTube reviews. I'm not sure, but one of the reasons was I changed computers at a certain point, so it really became hard for me to go back to doing YouTube videos. But the other reason was I had noticed, and I don't know if I've mentioned this here or not, so if I have, I apologize, but I can't remember and it's late. I noticed that I was paying too much attention to my face, to my hair. You know what I mean? Like I was, you know how like newscasters and stuff, they have this plastic, artificial look to them, and actors sometimes have it, and I always find it alarming when I see like when you can tell somebody's just been looking in the mirror too much or seeing themselves on TV too much. And for an actor, it makes sense that they kind of have to do that. But I didn't like that I was noticing that I was starting to play to the YouTube videos with how I was grooming myself and how I was doing everything. It just bothered me. And so that was one of the other big reasons. And that's similar for me in terms of, you know, marketing games and stuff like that. Like I do the marketing, but like I'm not a big fan of doing that. And I always feel weird about it. And I don't really like doing that. The way, incidentally, the way that my dad always instructed me to do is, and I'm not a salesperson. I don't really know sales that well, but his whole attitude was always about, you know, aligning the customer with what they actually want. Do you know what I mean? And that's not how all salespeople operate. You know, there's also a school of thought where, you get people to want, the product you want them to want. But and again, every sales situation I'm sure is different, but that was and there was a lot more to it than that. But that was one of the big things he used to always go on about. And I think that's kind of shapes how I view marketing and stuff. Because when I'm marketing the games, I generally, if it seems like it's outside of somebody's area of interest, I'm not going to try to persuade them that it's something they should like. I'd rather tell them about a game that they're more likely to enjoy than a game like mine if it doesn't align with their interests. So, but anyways, that was a ramble and a rant, and I really ought to get going. So I'm gonna head out, and we'll be back on, and we're gonna get some of those horror episodes up soon. We have I have two gangster movies in the can that we did podcasts on, so I'm gonna post those up, and hopefully we'll get another Righteous Blood podcast. I'm responsible for we were supposed to do another one recently, and I got sick, so it's sort of my fault that we don't have that up yet, but hopefully we'll get that up soon. And until then, we'll talk to you later.